Yes, Mike Healy from the University of Westminster, Westminster Business School. And the consortium has chosen me to explain the project. That just seems to me another indication of the foolishness of the times that we live in, perfectly honest. We have a problem. We have a problem. And the problem is this, very simple problem. We have all this technology that's available, and people have been speaking about it this morning, the range of technology we can use. And the problem is that when we come to teaching, these technologies are not used in the teaching on a day-to-day basis. Now, there's been some examples here of good practice. And if you go on the internet and you do a searching, you will find no end of ranges of good examples. Examples of good practice. But what we don't find is that examples of general practice, and that is the problem. That is the problem. How to bring these activities into the classroom. Maria, at the break, we were talking about this, and she put it very well. What she says is, we've got all this new technology, but we still use the same old ways in our teaching. And I think that really is a good summation of the difficulties that we're seeking to address. Now, what the IC teacher sought to do was to address a particular kind of audience. So we're looking at initially at primary and secondary teachers aged 40 plus. Why 40 plus? Because all the evidence seems to indicate that as you get older, you get greyer, you get fatter and whatever, get more lines. But the problem is that some of this technology would have been introduced after many folk would have started teaching. So there was a kind of people are wary of this technology and not too confident with it. So that was that's the first and primary audience. The secondary audience would be student teachers. How we can talk to them about using the technology in their teaching. Teaching experts and trainers and organisations and authorities. The purpose is to aid the integration of ICT into teaching. Whoops, back, there. How did the project develop? Well, first of all, we had this initial research phase. Now, if you go on the web and you do a search, you'll find there's the EU policy, there are government policies. We've had some statistics here this morning about one computer per 5 pupils, penetration of broadband technology into various countries. And what we were doing was looking to kind of move beneath that, to try and identify the gaps in the knowledge and the practice. And therefore, we focused our research on primary, secondary and teaching training institutions. We did this through desk research of the type I've just mentioned, but also we thought it was very, very important that we look at in-depth interviews. And therefore, we took to teachers, teacher trainers and the like. And this was a range of research that was across the European Union. And if we want to talk about that research, we can talk about that afterwards, after the presentation. And the result was a research report which talked in great detail about our findings. From this research, we developed the course. The course was driven by the research. Obviously, we come to the discussion with some ideas. We come to the discussion with our own experiences, but what we were keen to do was to kind of marry those experiences and prior knowledge to the research. And through discussion, we said, yes, we must refocus the discussion, the project on integrating ICT into teaching. We developed what is called a competence assessment tool. I'll talk a bit more about this in a moment. It's a self-evaluation activity. And this activity is to identify the basic needs. Is there a technical gap that teachers need to overcome in order to move on and use the course as a whole? We then developed this IT, if there is a gap, we talk about 9 hours face-to-face training to bring teachers up to speed. And then there's the full blended learning course of 200 hours, 15% contact and 85% self-directed e-learning. Now, the process of the course, how it operates, how does this course operate? Well, first of all, there is the first face-to-face or virtual group meeting. And here we talk about how much ICT basic training does the participant need to undertake. As I mentioned before, that's a self-evaluation test, and it's also part of a discussion. Here, the idea is that this participant recognises at the very beginning their own limitations and would go on, if necessary, to take the ICT basic training course. Or, if they feel confident enough to tackle the main course, we move on to the second face-to-face virtual group meeting. And here, what happens in these group meetings, we will have, for example, communication options will be discussed, a plan for virtual group sessions, what expectations are there of the various forums, what expectations are of the trainer's role. In other words, it's outlining the expectations of both the participant and the trainer. There's discussions there about the choice of module and I'll come on to talk about the modules in a moment, the choice of module or scenario that the lecturer or the participant will wish to undertake. And then there is to establish a network and aid support groups. So in the next step is, having decided which way we're going to go and basically established the ground rules, there's the activity, undertaking the scenario or the module. And in this activity, the emphasis here is on guidance. The self-learning has to take place, but it takes place within a framework where the trainer is offering guidance. There is also virtual group sessions where aid and support can be given, clarifying the questions that a lecturer or a teacher may have about the activity. For example, then working out lesson plans and the like. So what we have therefore is this activity, choosing the scenario, choosing the module, and then being involved in guided self-learning activity. And a key part of this is then the reflection. It's the old adage, isn't it? The only people who ever make mistakes are the people who do things. And there's a supposition in this activity that somewhere along the line, in carrying out, developing a lesson plan and implementing that lesson plan, things may go wrong, things may not work out exactly the way folk wanted them to. That is the reflection on the activity. That will hopefully build into the choice of the next scenario. And therefore what we have is a rolling process here of activity, self-reflection, and at each stage developing the skills, competence and confidence of the participants.